Of all the stories that we hear about the status of women in India every day, their battles, their challenges, their sort of daily fights, there are an equal number of women out there trying to make a difference for so many others like them in their own quiet way all across India. This is our attempt to try and profile some of them, to bring some of their stories, their experiences right to your room. Well, with me now, Jaya Jaitley, someone who's worked with women, with their causes for a whole host of years. She's now with us. Ma'am, in all your experiences, as you've sort of been working, like I said, with the issues involving women, you've sort of also seen the Indian woman evolve in a certain sense. What do you believe has been her biggest success in the last few years?
I think every Indian woman is actually quite empowered. It's a question of realizing it from within themselves. And most often it's the poorest and most oppressed who do rise up because they feel they have nothing to lose. And whether it's the anti-liquor agitation which happened in Andhra Pradesh, they were illiterate women who were being taught ABC, and in their ABC book they saw the liquor vend. And then they realized that that was what was harming their lives. So they became 70,000 women marching to stop the liquor sale. So I felt even then, and I feel now, that it's the most oppressed, the most miserable woman who finally says, well, if nobody's going to help me, I'm going to help myself and others. And I think the most important thing in this is when women also realize that they get out of their misery. If you put your life in the education of others and removal of others' misery, it empowers you double.
Right. Absolutely. Sowing the seeds of empowerment, as it were. But it's an interesting point that you mentioned, that there are perhaps women who feel that we have nothing to lose, so just let's give this a shot too, who perhaps script these great victories or struggles or, stories of overcoming these kind of challenges. But how would you then see the young urban woman, for instance, and her struggles, which are entirely different and often also accused of sort of being caught in their own bubbles and not sort of going beyond their own space?
Well, I think the urban woman is quite spoiled because even lower middle class families today are so influenced by the world around them and the peer pressure of children who want to go to malls and who want to have certain kind of shoes and bags, and even if it's a cheap one-off cheap imitation, they want all that, and the parents get to feel that if we have to give our child everything and if this is what she wants. Very little in the city I find of women who really can give up their own self to do, and they don't suffer also that much. I mean, the suffering is of course getting pushed in the bus, and you have the horrible Nirbhaya thing. But it's one horrible incident like that activates people. How many of those women who were at India Gate and Jantar Mantar are actually today dedicated to working against this? I would even like to know whether they all have collectively even sent the police or the administration areas where lights have to be put. There has to be collective activity and carrying forward a problem to find a solution.
So perhaps in it for the long run is perhaps what we need to commit ourselves to, not just those spontaneous or that angst that's out there briefly.
It doesn't have to be a long run like Mother Teresa, that you give up everything and go off and do. But it's a question of being committed in some way in your own life to bring your advantages to bear to improve something else.
And that's exactly what Saroja Amma is doing in Karnataka. Here is someone devoted to ending child labour, and she's had major success. And how? Here's her story, reported by Radhika Iyer.
Thanksgiving, not just for the hot meal, but for a life of dignity by girls at a rehabilitation hostel in Magadi in South Karnataka. Some of them rescued as child labourers from dark dungeon-like factories of Magadi, which produces tons of fine threads of silk. Saroja Amma, a child rights activist, visited Magadi in 1999 to do research on the silk units. What she saw then in the factories changed her life and that of over 1,200 children. She saw nimble, deft fingers wading through threads wrapped in hazardous machines. Children worked as bonded labourers, like machines, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. each day for a wage of 1 rupee per hour per child. 24-year-old Gauri recollects that when she was unwell as a 10-year-old working in the factory, she was tied with ropes to the wall to ensure she doesn't sit or take a break during her hours of work.
ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿಲಿ ಮೇಸ್ತ್ರಿ ಹೊಡೆದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬಿದ್ದೋಗಿದ್ಲು, ಅದರಿಂದನೇ ಕಾಯಿಲೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋಗಿ ಸತ್ತೋದ್ಲು ನಮ್ಮ ಅಕ್ಕ ಭಾಗ್ಯ ಅಂತಿದ್ರು.
Muniratnama has a remarkable story of courage to share. She suffered more than 60% burns when a silk boiler in the factory fell over her when she was 10. Her torso, private organs, legs were burnt. Her case made Sarojamma fight fearlessly. She took the silk trading mafia to courts, which led to raids and rescue of more than 1,000 children.
ಇವ್ರ ಕೈಯಿಂದ ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ಅವ್ರ ಕೈಯಿಂದ ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಆ ಮಗು ಬಾವಿಗೆ ಬಿದ್ದು ಸತ್ತು ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತ. ಮಗು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಮಗುಗೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂದಲೆಲ್ಲ ಕಿತ್ತೋಗಿ ಆ ಮಗು ಸತ್ತೋಯ್ತು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮಗುಗೆ ಬೆರಳು ಕತ್ತರಿಸಿ ಆ ಮಗುದು ಆ ಬೆರಳಿದ ಫೋಟೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ, ಬೆರಳೆಲ್ಲ ಕಟ್ಟಾಗೋಗಿತ್ತು.
Magadi village more than 10 years ago made machines which were just 4 feet of height because they had to be compatible to their children. Employees, 8, 9, 10-year-olds traded their laughter, their childhood to make fine threads of silk in the dark. Today, this village and the taluk by and large is child labor free. Sarojamma didn't stop with just children stopping work, but she ensured their deft hands held what they're meant to, pens and books. Radhika Iyer from Magadi in South Karnataka with Nazir Sheikh, NDTV.
Sarojamma's story, of course, ma'am, being quite incredible. In fact, in one area, this is a big, a huge beginning. She's also managed to end child labor, which really commendable. But, you were speaking earlier about, being in it for the long haul, being in a certain kind of woman perhaps fits the bill better. Now, in your experience, if you could just go back, you've mentioned the one success, the successes that you believe. What do you believe have been the big failures? And do you see us overcoming them?
The failure is not from the women's side. The failure is society that tends to say, oh, if a woman is going out and being active, she's aggressive, she's forward, she's immoral. And this happens all along. I mean, you see it when people criticize women who have come to important positions, finding something wrong with them. This is a very ugly thing in society because I suppose men feel threatened. And that is one problem.
Insecurity perhaps is
also, when you really want to help a disadvantaged group, it takes money. The women never have money. Even if it means giving 20 children some water to drink every day. Even that today, where do you get clean water? You can't afford the Bisleri. So money is always a problem, whether it's for women in politics or it's women in social work, anything like that. But somewhere, I think, when you cross that critical line, society does come with you. Like you're saying, Sarojamma gets honored by society, she gets recognized. Even if it's in her own ward or lane, the fact is they do respect her. And then people don't tend to play with her too much.
Even though it perhaps takes an enormous struggle and a lot of time. But yes, that of course is key step, that recognition, that encouragement. We've got more such incredible stories coming up right after this break. Don't go away.